What's good, folks? Kyle Moore here. You guys had questions about the economy? I'm here to answer them. So a lot of folks had questions about differences in the black and white homeownership rate. Homeownership is inaccessible across the board right now in the United States, but for black families, that gap is much more severe and it's going to be much more difficult to close that gap. And it has been difficult to try to close that gap over decades. Today, the black homeownership rate is just under 45%. It's around 74% for white households. Again, we're not really making progress on closing this particular gap. And a lot of it boils down to the fact that homeownership is predicated on access to wealth, and black families have historically been wealth poor. But again, it's kind of a catch-22. Homeownership is also really the main way that most U.S. households who have wealth get that wealth. They get it through that appreciating asset of owning a home. So whereas white families are often able to help their relatives or their children with a down payment on a new home by leveraging the wealth that they may have had from having purchased their own home in the past, black families who haven't had access to that neither are able to give nor receive that help. And so it ends up being a sort of self-perpetuating cycle there. And again, that lack of access is historical. Black families were routinely denied access to mortgages in neighborhoods where they could afford to live, in a process known as redlining. And even as recently as the Great Recession, black families were targeted with higher priced mortgages with these predatory interest rates called subprime mortgages that led to many foreclosures through the early 2000s. On top of that, even when black families purchase a home, those homes are often undervalued. They're appraised at a lower value, no matter what the amenities may exist in that neighborhood. So you have a home owned by a black family, a home owned by a white family, very similar amenities. The black home is often appraised at a lower value. So there are a lot of factors that contribute to black families not having access to homeownership. Even when they have access to homeownership, the asset does not quite do the same thing as it does for white families. And you really need to address that gap through a concerted policy effort. Anti-discrimination. It includes being proactive about equity, being proactive about helping folks get access to mortgages. A lot of things need to happen. It's not simply going to be black folks changing the way they save or spend money or invest. There are structural things at play here.